The aphid. A single aphid can start an invasion without ever meeting a mate. Most females reproduce through parthenogenesis, giving birth to live young without fertilization, and inside every one of those unborn nymphs sits another generation already developing, a phenomenon called telescoping generations that means an aphid can be born already pregnant. In warm conditions, a female produces up to 12 nymphs a day, and those nymphs can begin reproducing themselves within about a week, so a single aphid settling on a stem can seed a colony hundreds strong before anyone notices a problem. Aphids feed with needle-like mouthparts driven straight into the phloem, draining sap and leaving behind curled, yellowing leaves and stunted new growth. As they feed, they excrete a sugary waste called honeydew that coats the leaves below in a sticky film, and that film quickly grows a black fungus called sooty mold, blocking sunlight from the leaf surface and starving the plant of photosynthesis on top of the sap loss. When colonies overcrowd a stem, some nymphs develop wings instead of staying put, taking flight to found new colonies elsewhere, and it is this winged generation that carries plant viruses from an infected host to a healthy one, aphids being responsible for spreading roughly 60% of all known plant viruses worldwide. Their soft, pear-shaped bodies come in shades of green, black, pink, or dusty gray depending on the species, and a pair of small tube-like cornicles projecting from the rear of the abdomen release defensive fluid the moment a predator gets too close. A tiny but visible warning sign clustered along any stem worth checking closely. The spider mite. Barely visible without a magnifying glass, the two-spotted spider mite thrives in exactly the conditions most houseplants are kept in: hot, dry air with still leaves and no predators in sight. Females pierce individual plant cells with their mouthparts and drain the contents one cell at a time, leaving behind a stippled, dusty yellow or bronze speckling across the leaf surface that is easy to mistake for nutrient deficiency until the infestation is already severe. Heavy populations spin fine silk webbing across leaf undersides and stem joints, both to travel between feeding sites and to shield eggs from drying out, and a leaf draped in that webbing is usually already collapsing. Heat accelerates everything about this pest. In temperatures between 70 and 81 degrees Fahrenheit, a spider mite can complete its entire life cycle from egg to reproducing adult in as little as 5 to 8 days. And a single female can lay 100 to 300 eggs across her 3 to 4 week lifespan, meaning a plant left unchecked through one hot week can go from a few stray specks to a fully webbed defoliating outbreak. Every pest on this list gets its own deep dive with full identification photos and treatment breakdowns on Garden's Lab, with a new one posted every few days for anyone actively fighting an infestation right now. The Mealybug. Mealybugs build their own armor before they ever start doing visible damage. Newly hatched crawlers are soft, translucent, and mobile, wandering the plant in search of a protected joint or crevice. But within days, they settle in place and begin secreting a white, cottony wax that thickens into a shield covering their entire body, a coating that can block 60 to 80% of a contact treatment from ever reaching the insect underneath. Adult females then lay their eggs inside a matching cottony sac tucked into leaf axils, stem crevices, or the crown of the plant. Sites specifically chosen because they stay hidden from casual inspection, and a single female can produce anywhere from 100 to 600 eggs across her lifetime. While feeding, mealybugs excrete the same sugary honeydew aphids do, fueling the same black sooty mold. But some species go further, injecting a toxin through their saliva that causes host plants to drop leaves and buds outright. Because the crawler stage is the only point in the entire life cycle without protective wax, it represents the single narrow window where any treatment actually has a chance of reaching the insect before its armor closes over it completely. A mature colony often resembles small tufts of cotton wedged into the crown of a plant or along the underside of a leaf vein, and gently crushing one reveals a soft, pinkish body hidden beneath all that fibrous white wax. The Fungus Gnat. The tiny black flies. Hovering around an overwatered houseplant are rarely the real threat. Adult fungus gnats do not bite and do not feed on the plant at all, existing mainly as a nuisance while they search out moist soil to lay their eggs in. But the larvae that hatch from those eggs live buried in the top layers of soil, and in large numbers they chew through fine root hairs and tender young roots, particularly on seedlings and fresh cuttings that cannot outpace the damage. Wet, organically rich potting mix is exactly what those larvae need to thrive, which means the very act of overwatering a plant to keep it healthy creates the perfect breeding ground for a pest that will go on to damage its roots directly. Larval feeding also opens small wounds in root tissue, wounds that give soil-borne fungal pathogens a direct entry point, meaning a fungus gnat problem left untreated can escalate into root rot even in a plant that was never overwatered badly enough to cause rot on its own. Allowing the top inch or two of soil to dry out completely between waterings is enough to break the cycle entirely, since fungus gnat eggs and young larvae cannot survive without that surface moisture. The adults themselves are slender, dark, mosquito-like flies barely 1/8 of an inch long, weak flyers that stay close to the soil surface and scatter upward the moment a pot is tapped or disturbed, while their larvae remain nearly transparent, thread-thin worms with a single shiny black head capsule visible under close inspection. The whitefly brush against an infested plant, and an entire cloud of tiny white insects can lift off the underside of the leaves at once, scattering into the air before settling right back down onto the same colony a few seconds later. Adult whiteflies and their nymphs both feed by piercing plant tissue and draining sap, and because the larvae in particular need large amounts of protein to grow, they process an enormous volume of that sap and excrete the sugary excess as honeydew, coating leaves and fruit in a sticky residue that quickly turns black with sooty mold. Under warm greenhouse conditions, a whitefly can complete its full 6-stage life cycle in as little as 18 days, and a single female can lay well over 100 eggs on the underside of a single leaf. The most serious damage is often invisible until it is too late. Whiteflies transmit more than 100 distinct plant viruses, including some that cause irregular fruit ripening and severe leaf yellowing. And because infected plants generally cannot be cured once a virus takes hold, the whitefly's role as a walking vector does more long-term damage to a collection than its feeding ever does on its own. The scale insect. Scale insects spend most of their lives disguised as something that is not an insect at all. Newly hatched crawlers are the only mobile stage in the entire life cycle, wandering the stem in search of a permanent feeding site before settling down for good and building a hard, shell-like covering over their bodies that can look identical to a natural bump or blemish on the bark itself. Once that covering hardens, armored scale insects never move again, remaining fused in place while thread-like mouthparts stay buried in the plant's vascular tissue, silently draining sap for the rest of their lives. Because that shell blocks most contact treatments from reaching the insect underneath, an infestation frequently goes undetected until branches begin dying back or leaves turn a mottled, sickly yellow across the entire canopy. A single female scale can lay anywhere from 50 to 2,000 eggs beneath her own protective shell before she dies, and those eggs hatch into the next generation of crawlers already sheltered from the elements by their mother's abandoned armor. Armored shells range from flat, oyster-gray discs barely 1/16 of an inch across to raised, waxy bumps in shades of brown and reddish tan, clustered so tightly along a stem that an infested branch can look as if it were coated in a strange, crusted bark. The thrips damage a plant with a feeding method unlike almost anything else in the insect world. Rather than simply piercing and sucking, a thrips first rasps open the surface of a plant cell using a single specialized mandible, then inserts a tube-like stylet into the wound to drink the contents that spill out, a two-step process that leaves behind collapsed, air-filled cells that catch the light and give damaged leaves a distinctive silvery or bronze sheen. Because thrips are barely 1 millimeter long and fly poorly, most infestations begin unnoticed inside developing flower buds and the tightly folded new growth at a plant's growing tip, where the pests are shielded from view until the leaf or petal finally unfurls already scarred and deformed. The greater danger lies in what thrips carry rather than what they eat directly. Thrips are the primary vector for a group of plant viruses called tospoviruses, including tomato-spotted wilt virus, which can infect more than 900 different plant species and causes symptoms ranging from ring-shaped lesions to total stunting. And because infected plants cannot be cured, a single virus carrying thrips slipping past unnoticed can end up costing an entire collection far more than any amount of direct feeding damage would. The slug. Long after the lights go out, a slug emerges from beneath the soil, the leaf litter, or the underside of a pot to begin its nightly feeding run. Lacking teeth entirely, a slug scrapes plant tissue apart using a ribbon-like structure called a radula, covered in thousands of microscopic, backward-curving teeth that shred leaves into large, ragged holes while carefully avoiding the toughest veins and midribs. Seedlings and tender young transplants are the most vulnerable targets on any property, since a slug can strip a newly emerged sprout down to nothing in a single overnight visit, ending its growth before it ever really began. Every slug moves by gliding along on a single muscular foot lubricated by a constant secretion of mucus, and that same trail dries into a telltale silvery streak across leaves, stems, and soil, often the only visible evidence left behind by a pest that hides through daylight hours in cool, damp, sheltered ground. As hermaphrodites, slugs need only one other individual to trade fertilization with, and a single slug can lay roughly 300 eggs across its lifetime, more than enough to turn one overlooked hiding spot into a garden-wide problem by the time the damage finally becomes visible. A fully grown garden slug can stretch 2 inches long, its soft, legless body ranging from pale cream mottled with gray to a deep, almost chocolate brown, with 2 pairs of retractable feelers on its head, the taller pair carrying simple eye spots at their tips.